morning all. Welcome to Macro Talk. If you were watching that intro, sorry about that, if you were watching that intro and wondering how many live things is he doing this week? It's 4. I don't know why, but it is 4. We have Macro Talk tonight, Macro Talk 2 on Thursday. Saturday morning we have a Pazoom, a 2-hour Pazoom. It's going to be a good one. And then on Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, we have Larry Strunk joining us for Tangent. Actually, it's me joining Larry for the Tangent. You understand the difference, right? He knows what he's talking about. How's everybody doing? I hope you can hear me. I'm going to use a different microphone this evening so that we can do a little bit of work behind me. I'm going to do a little off-the-cuff demo here. I had a couple of interesting preparations sitting on my desk, and I thought they'd be ideal for what we're going to be talking about, which is eyeballs and other things. But first, I want to repeat an announcement I made on Thursday, just in case anybody in this general area, this is the bottom right-hand corner of America, if anybody around in this area would like to get their hands on a pristine piece of quartz, you know, it's a rock that they make counters out of. My friend Robert has several pieces that he has donated to the cause, and if anybody is going to be like driving around in that general area and could deliver a piece, like to me, say, for example, because my car won't hold it, then yeah, you get to keep one or have one. Yeah, get in touch. It's a lousy deal, isn't it? I'll pay for the petrol though. Yeah, so it's not that bad a deal. It's still a whole day of your life gone, but let me know if you're interested. Let me see, what else have we got? A hint, a tip about something that might be coming in the future, a medium format kind of future possibly. Enough said. Stew on that one for a while. We're going to be doing questions from the ether today. We're going to be talking about eyeballs, preparing bugs for photography, and how to get the very, very best out of every single bug you buy or find. And it really does begin long before you get to the studio. It begins with how you catch them, how you bottle them, how you bring them home, how you sort them. Everything matters. And if you start your shooting session with an absolutely pristine specimen, you will end up with an absolutely pristine photograph, I guarantee it. The photography part's the easy part. The photography part's the other hard part, is what I meant to say. There are 2 hard parts. There are 3 hard parts if you count the post-processing. Should we stop counting the hard parts? It's difficult stuff. But if you want to see how one new transitioner to extreme macro is handling the pressure, join Patreon if you're not already a member, but come to the Pazoom on Saturday, and you're going to get a report from my student, Susan, who's I'm sure she's here this evening. I haven't had a moment to look up the screen yet, but she's going to be giving us an update on how the first 6 weeks have gone. And yeah, it could be a little on the hairy side for me, depending on how she's feeling that day, because it's tough doing that first block of knowledge. But if that interests you, that's Pazoom. That's part of what we're doing. Don't forget, if you are interested in the Tangent and plan on participating, that you're supposed to have turned in your drawing or your plans for your draw organizer, like I haven't done. I've done one. You want to see it? It's appalling. I'll show you, because I couldn't figure something really important out about, oh no, that's something else I drew. It's better though. It's better than the thing I did for my homework. My homework, I just could not figure out one thing, and it was driving me batty. So what I did was I just took a break and made that instead. Nice, isn't it? Yeah. What is it you're saying? Don't think it's got a name. It's a woodworking tool I invented. So yeah, so there's that. That's not bad. I forgot a screw hole I can see though. But the draw organizer, you need to send it to Larry, and that is tangent@larrystrunk.com. That's his email address, tangent@larrystrunk.com. Send it to him right away. Otherwise, it's just going to be me again, and he will drag me over the coals for doing such a poor job, as I did last time. I've got to get that piece of woodworking tool equipment out of the way, or I'll be looking at it and trying to figure out what to do next with it. So this week in the pipeline, we've already covered most everything. Yeah, I think that's about it. I have no idea what Larry's got in store for us this next time around. But I'm sure it'll be more difficult than the last two, because that's just the way it goes. So a bunch of your questions came in, and I'm going to tell you how I come to be answering these this evening, and why I don't know who asked them is because these questions come in all the time in email, and it used to be, those of you who've been around since the get-go know that I always used to answer them fully myself, 100% of them, for 3.5 years, and just pretty much ran out of time doing that, because I tend to say quite a lot in those emails. I figured if you took the time to write the email, I'd take the time to respond, and I did for the longest time. Can't do that now, but I have a much better way of communicating the information. So if you ask an interesting question, and it comes into my email, or I get it at a live stream, it doesn't matter where it comes from, I'll write it down, and sometimes I remember the name, sometimes I just forget, but I'll have a list, and when I get to thinking, oh, that's too many questions, I better deal with them. That's what we do tonight, is we deal with them. So you may have asked this question a while ago, and forgotten all about asking it, so don't worry about that if you did. It's entirely my fault. There's just not enough time in the day to do everything I'm trying to do. So the first question, and the biggest one, we'll get to in just a second after we answer Robert's question, because he's in the house and you guys get precedence on the questioning. So let me see. You can't hear computer fans because I don't have any. Has an echo. Don't know what that could be. I'm just using the wireless microphone tonight because I'm about to turn around and go the other way. Maybe it was when one of the other cameras was on. I don't know. Don't know what to say. I'll press a button. Shall I do that? I'll try pressing one button, and if that doesn't do it, I won't do that. I won't do that. If you don't like the sound, guys, just tell one of the bouncers. They'll tell me, and I'll switch on the regular microphone, and I'll just wing the rest of it over there. I'll shout or something. Sorry about that. Yeah, the computer doesn't have any fans, but it's my 8 hard drives. Yep, they make a lot of noise. I don't hear it anymore. But anyway, there was a question from Robert. Greetings, Robert. I'm relaxing and pinning some 1-inch weevils. How long will it take for them to dry out so I can remove the pins and photograph them? It's a very good question. The actual timing is going to depend on how you wash the weevil, what medium you used, how long it was in the wet, and on many other factors, how warm it is in your house, whether there's a breeze over it, that type of thing. It will dry in its own good time. You'll know it's dry when one of the rear appendages, one of the back legs that you probably have pinned down flat now onto your mat, when you can pull that pin out halfway and that leg does not rise off the mat, he's dry enough. And the other possibility is he's too limber, he's too relaxed, and when you pick him up on the pin, his legs will droop. That happens very rarely, and if it does, the solution for it is get him on a pin and get him positioned the way you want him, and just wait an hour, go do something else and come back. Let him drift into position, and then he'll stay there. That's what I do, and it works well for me. I do a lot less formal relaxing than I used to. I do a lot of quick relaxing because I don't plan on keeping the subject wet. I plan on letting it dry out and then storing it dry. and I frequently now store on pins, which is a huge time saver. I took out in fact, one of the things we're going to photograph today, one of the things we're going to look at today has been on a pin since I first met it, and we're going on months now, and it still looks fantastic on a pin. Anyway, I'll show you that in just a second. My wireless mic isn't turned on. My wireless mic is turned on. It certainly is. Yep, both of them are. And they're both reading my voice loud and clear. And they're both plugged in. So plan B. Just bear with me. There we go. I don't know how you could hear me at all if that microphone wasn't plugged in. There's no microphone in the building that you were hearing me on. How strange. Okay, that kind of screws the pooch on the plans for what I was doing, and I had a really elaborate thing set up for you. Don't you just love the way this goes? That's what we're going to be working on. A Delta wasp from Vietnam that's got cloudy eyes and needs a bit of love. And this little preparation I call head and shoulders. It's the front half of a wasp that became disengaged from its abdomen during a vigorous washing the other day. Sad, really, but his eyes need care too. So they're both sitting on this because I have another camera on them giving you a separate view. But hang on a sec. You don't have to, I know what you're going to say. We can't hear you when you do that. Sorry. I was just saying this is our prep for this evening. And I'm going to have to figure out a way to get sound over there. But yeah, I'll come up with something. So that is what we're going to be using. We've got both of these wasps have got pretty cloudy eyes. I do have another camera on the picture here, but it does not appear to be turned on. Let me tap it and wake it up. That didn't do it either, did it? It's a little a little strange. Let me see if I can get that to work, because it's important, because it'll help. Okay. Alrighty. Let me try. There you go. That's the other view. That's a better view. That shows the Delta wasp and the head and shoulders preparation. And they're the eyes that I was going to clean with you tonight. But really, the most important thing is to explain to you how we do it, and you know what a dirty eye is, and what an eye that needs to be reconditioned is, and why it is the way it is. And yeah, and then I'll probably I really don't know what I'll do about sound. I'll think about it while I'm talking. The problem with eyes is when an insect dies, several things happen, none of which are good for the appearance of the eyes. You know, most insect eyes are dark, they're shiny, they look a little wet because they are a little wet, and you're seeing oftentimes reflections off that shiny surface, as well as the internal structure of the eye. But the second the insect dies, and this is without being put in an oven to dehydrate them the way they do when they catch them in the field. This is just in the natural course of being a dead bug. The internal structures of the eye immediately begin to deteriorate. The individual ocelli, The individual lenses at the top of these long, narrow compound eye segments will start to fall apart, and the contents of the eye fall away from the surface of the eye. And the result is it takes on a kind of white, semi-transparent look that's not good at all. That is mostly due to dehydration of the dying, of the dead and decomposing tissue in the eye. But that's not the only thing. They also just get dirty, and they get really filthy just by being kept in boxes of dead insects until they're put on little packets to send to you. They don't clean them, and once the insect is dead, it doesn't clean itself either. So unless you have a zombie insect. So you tend not to get eyes in very good shape these days anyway. So you get a lot of practice cleaning them. So what we need to do then is a multi-pronged approach, and we can overdo it. So the thing to do when you get a specimen is to look at it, examine the eye, and examine the whole insect is the first thing you do, and figure out what exactly do I have to do to get this back to where I want it? How much is it going to take to get there? How much of the problem I'm looking at is dust and grime from the road that's on the eyeball that should come off? And how much of it is structural and is going to need to have a more disciplined and stepwise approach? You'll be amazed how many times a good, cool, soapy bath will get the eye right back to spanking new. I mean, looking gorgeous. So, generally speaking, unless it is a really, really old specimen, the first thing I'll do is wash it. After I've checked that it's stable enough for a regular wash. And I'm assuming now these are fairly small insects, not teeny tiny, but like Robert's 1-inch weevils. Let me grab one. That's smaller than I imagine that Robert's working with right now, but it has big eyes. I have a feeling that Robert is probably working with one of these bad boys or something similar. If so, these have gorgeous eyes. They're quite big. They're easy to work with, and they're a great specimen to practice on. If you want something good looking that is going to look fantastic when you get the eyes done, go with a weevil like this. They look fantastic with bad eyes, but they look just fantastic with extra fantastic with clean eyes. So the first thing's a wash. Now, we've talked about this before, and I'll kind of show you around my cleaning area. I've actually moved my cleaning area to my microscope area so that I could get more cameras on it. But you'll see what I mean here. So to the left, let's see if the other camera actually picks up. No, it doesn't. I've managed to take all of these shots without it. You know what? I'm not going to try to add another one right at this juncture. I know what I'll do. I'll use this one because you can see if I get out of the way. Yeah, that works. There are 3 glass jars. These things, they're made for holding candles, votive candles, or some tea lights or something. Get these at the thrift shop. I got 6 of them. And one holds detergent, the other holds DI water, and the third holds decon. And they are the 3 first line liquids that I use. And I say first line, the decon is by no means a first line liquid. Decon is probably a last ditch effort, to be honest. But the first line stuff is detergent. And the way you wash eyes is not the same way as you wash the bug, and you don't wash the eyes and the bug at the same time. If you use the same brush you're using on the body of a weevil that size, you will turn it into a little stick of sandpaper that you do not want to be scratching back and forth on the eyes. I use different brushes. These are my eye brushes. These, I don't know what kind of brushes these are. They come from Walmart and they're cheap, but they have these synthetic, rounded, soft bristles, and they are really, really soft, but they hold their shape well. I don't know what they're made for. I threw the packet away ages ago. It says round, flat, somewhere in China, the name of a place. That won't help you. But they're nice little things, comfy to hold with rubbery bits on the top, which you need when you're working on fine stuff. These are for eyes and only for eyes. These never go on the body. Even if I see a piece of dirt, one piece of dirt after cleaning an eye sitting there on the body, I won't wipe it off with this. I'll grab a body brush, which looks different. These are my body brushes. You've seen these before. I've used about 10 packets of these. I wear them out. I trim some of the bristles, but these are a bit stiffer and they're great for getting in tight places and agitating your dirt out, which I do underwater, oftentimes in that little pot, if they're not too dirty. Otherwise, I'll put them in a separate pot. But for the eyes, I get a heavy dose of clean detergent liquid on a brush. That will hold a big old drop, and that goes right on the eye, and I gently agitate the surface of the eye with this. That'll dislodge almost everything that's on there, and it will uncover any structural stuff that's going on, but it has a good side effect, and that is the moisture that you're putting on there, because it has soap in it. It has a low surface tension. A lot of it's going to get absorbed through what's left of the corneal type layer. And it will start to rehydrate the structures in the shallow part of the eye. When that happens, the eye's color will darken and it'll start to look more alive. Oftentimes, I'll stop with the detergent at that point and just start rinsing. And I rinse with a fresh brush with clean water, dip it, wipe it, dip it, wipe it, and just keep going until there is nothing visible by way of dirt left on the eye. That is when I stop. Now, that is actually when I stop, period. If that gives me a good result, I don't do anything else, I don't put anything else on there. I am having a discussion with a friend of the show, Bud Parrott, who has quite a series going now of eyes that he treats with penetrating oil called Croil. I have not had the fortune he has had with it. Well, it's because I don't have the skill that he has to use it, and I haven't used it as many times as I need to get comfortable with it. So I'm still trying it from time to time. I tend to put too much on, even though I'm using just basically residue on the brush tip. I end up with the little creases in between the lenses getting oil in them or liquid in them, which tend to flatten the eye a bit. So I don't use it a lot, but I do practice with it, and if I get more confident with it, I may add it to the list. The other thing that I will do is if I get an eye that has got what look like superficial stains that just won't come off, it oftentimes is because it's something that has seeped out of the eyes, probably protein that has denatured after the bug died. That can form, those conglomerates of amino acids will dry on the eye, and they do not want to come off. It's akin to having a nosebleed on your t-shirt and forgetting to wash it for a year, which is disgusting, and you should have washed it long before, but if you did, you'd have trouble getting that blood out. Same deal. That's what these things are like dealing with. For that, I recommend using some kind of a proteolytic enzyme. Now, you don't want to have to buy trypsin and acid to activate it and be doing all of that stuff. That's just too much work for an eyeball. Instead, just use the eye drops. I think it's not eye drops. They're contact lens cleaning solution. Called Renew anyway, RENU. That stuff contains enzymes that are great at breaking down proteins. And I do the same as I do with a detergent. I put a blob on the end. In fact, I leave it in the bottle it comes in. Just put a drop on the eye, let it sit there for a bit, and then agitate it, and then rinse it. That will often get the stains off. There's two other things to bear in mind. One is the eye that has hair growing out of it, like bees do, and some other insects as well. They will get wax on them. They'll get a wax coating that looks a bit whitish and soapy, and that stuff is horrible to get off. The very best thing for it, and the thing I recommend hands down for a waxy eyeball, is to use 2 ethyl acetate. Yeah, 2-ethoxyethyl acetate. It's called Cell Solve. Yeah, that's the name of it, Cell Solve. And you buy it in less than a 55-gallon drum, but it's about a gallon jug, and it will last you 58 lifetimes because you only use a teeny weeny little bit of it, but it just melts the wax away. If you ever get candle wax all over you by accident, that would get it off there too. Yeah. It's very similar to ethyl acetate. It's just got a couple of extra ethyls on it somewhere. But it's good stuff. And I've got about a 10cc bottle that I've had for 10 years. I wonder if it's still any good. Probably not. I should buy some more. The last liquid is always saved till the end is Decon 90 because it is a method of last resort. I know I haven't been doing that lately. I've been using it a lot earlier in the process because I discovered it has some other properties. But you know what Decon 90 is? It is a liquid that is for first responders to apply to people who have been injured in, usually these days, laboratory accidents or spillages involving radiation, fallout particles, things that you do not want sitting on your body radiating. That's when you have to take your clothes off and they rub you down with broomsticks. That's not going to happen if you buy the stuff. They don't come to your house and do that. That's optional, extra. But if you have it for your insects, you need to use it with about as much abandon as you would go and get hosed down at the Decon Center. It needs to be a last resort. It will salvage eyes that are beyond salvage because of the strange combination of properties that liquid has. It is a little caustic. It breaks down what's left of the membranes and lets moisture get into the eye quickly. It is a powerful, it's actually like 3 different surface acting agents, surfactants, that make the eye less grabby to particles. It causes the eye to just release everything off its surface. It also has a detergent in it that cleans and helps lift other kinds of stains off. I believe it might even have some kind of enzymatic action. So it is really powerful, but it's also pretty dangerous stuff to have knocking around. I use it very dilute and by no means all the time. I've got some out tonight because I know that I'm going to use it on this wasp. It's that kind of dirty. So that is the way I clean eyes. And a couple of things I haven't touched on before, mainly because it's a pretty advanced kind of thing to bear in mind. But don't clean the eyes and do a quick once over of the head and the antennas at the same time. Keep your eye brushes separate all the time. It's a good practice, because otherwise you get lazy and you end up grabbing the wrong brush. And it might not sound like much now, but when you're looking at the picture and it's mural sized on your wall, you'll see every scratch and ding and granule of dirt on it. So yeah, it's good to be super meticulous about this from the start. So be careful with it. And when you're done with it, run it through a tea strainer with a piece of filter paper in it. Don't then use the tea strainer to run tea through, though. Should I say that? Do I have to say that? I'm going to say it anyway. I'll say it again. Don't drink Decon 90. Decon 90 will kill you. It's poisonous, and it's quite strongly so. It's got a lot of lye in it. So it's absolutely not to be used around kids or anything like that. It's keep it on the shelf, and when you need it, use it. I don't think I forgot any liquids. Oh, I did. I forgot probably one of the most important ones for plumping up eyes that have started to collapse. This is a diptera kind of thing. Flies will collapse eyes, and if you've got one, the ones that the semaphore flies, I can't remember what they're called around here, but they've got arms that go like this, and they signal to their mates. I don't know what they're saying, because they don't actually use semaphore. They use their own language, but I'm sure it's filthy. But they're waving their arms around and everything. You catch those flies, and their eyes will collapse by the time you get home. So for those, when I get them sorted after my hunt is over and I'm putting them in separate bottles, I treat them then with dilute glycerin. That will hold that eye open for a day, hold it up and plump for a day. Once the eye started to collapse, it really doesn't do any good, to be honest. And it doesn't seem to work on anything but diptera. But it will salvage those eyes and keep them going. So I should have mentioned that one. There are two other things to bear in mind about eye hygiene. Hygiene is not the right word, is it? About eye preparation. The first is being proactive and thinking about how you're going to prep the eyes when you're catching the insects. You'll see people frequently. You'll see me. Let's be honest about this. You'll see me over catching a single container. I fish with a net and a little medicine bottle at the end of it, and I'll whip it around and I'll catch stuff, and I'll see something else and I'll go chasing after it, and they're all collecting down in this medicine bottle. So are the little leaves that you hit and the other things that you pick up along the way. You need to stop and get them emptied out into cold alcohol or whatever you're doing to store them frequently, because by the time you have the third layer of insects being packed into that bottle, everything in the first layer is history. And you should think about what you're going to do with delicate eyes long before you are looking at the delicate eyes. Do it when you're catching the bugs. If you see accidentally catch a moth with your net, stop right then and get that moth out of there, and either let it go or dispatch it quickly. But that left in the jar, its eyes are going to be ruined. And the last thing is worth a mention. There isn't a lot that you can do that I consider fair game in post when it comes to eyes. But some people will list it as one of the tools for preserving or renewing an eye is just shoot it the way it is and then fix it in Photoshop. I fix a lot of things in Photoshop, and I'm not above removing residual grains of dirt in Photoshop. But completely resurfacing or colouring an eye is probably a little over the top for me. Not that it isn't interesting and fascinating, and you could do wonderful things with it. It's just not very real. And at the end of the day, you want your pictures to be pretty real. So that is quite literally everything I know about eyes and how you evaluate them, restore them, with emphasis on a good soapy wash and rinse, followed by good rehydration. I didn't really emphasize that at the beginning, but hydrating the eyes, whether it's in a regular chamber or in one of my quick fix chambers, just a little chamber with an espresso cup of hot water in it, that will oftentimes do amazing things to the eye. And and it will make the most amazing difference in your photography, because when somebody looks at a macro picture, the first thing they look at, whether they want to or not, is the eyes. Our eyes are drawn to the eyes of the things we photograph. And if the eyes aren't saying that we've done a bang-up job on this one, they often aren't too interested in looking around for other stuff. So make your eyes shine, literally. It's an easy way to get full points on a picture. It's an easy way to lose points on one too. Okay, so shall we move on? Was that enough, or should I pause and look at some questions? I think I'd better do that. Did I answer your question, Robert? You asked about the... Oh yeah, you just wait until the legs don't pop up. And I was going to say something else about that. Can't remember. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it and finding it relaxing. It should be. This stuff, if it gets stressful, it's not nearly as much fun, and the pictures aren't nearly as good. So enjoy it, definitely. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry about the sound, guys. I really am. I started hours early today to make sure that everything was in order, because it always makes me nervous using the non-regular microphone. And it happened again. And I don't know what it was. I'll figure it out. I'll troubleshoot it tonight. When I switch to the camera, my mic changes. But I've changed that too now. I think. Let me see. It should now. Yeah, it should be the good one. But I can't turn around because my mouth has to point at this microphone, unlike the other one. I just can't think of another way around it. And if I do that, nope, that won't work either. Okay, let's stop messing around with it, or I will mess something up. So what I was going to do was just show you my technique for applying the various liquids and for doing the wash. These eyes have already been washed. These bugs have already been photographed a couple of times. We'll do it another time, or I'll put it on a recording and put it out there. It's about time we did. We've got a whole month of bug stuff coming up in just a few weeks. And this will be a big part of it, because I'm crazy into good bug prep, as you can probably tell. It makes such a huge difference. But let's look at a couple of the other questions that came in. Were there any pressing things? It's Robert's birthday. Which Robert, Amy? Robert Stowrost? Robert, happy birthday. If it's your birthday. If it's not, whichever Robert it is, happy birthday. I know so many Roberts now. And they all have birthdays. I just don't think they're all today. Let me see. Who else has got a birthday? I never ask that. I should ask that. I always forget my own birthday too. But has anybody got a birthday today besides Robert? Because I'll sing to you if you do. It is Robert. Oh, it is Robert Stowrost. Okay, happy birthday, Robert. I won't sing to you because you're a friend. You got away with it. What size washcloth is used to clean insects? I have a feeling that this might be almost like a trick question. No size would be my choice. Washcloth. I guess I bought a weevil last year or 2 years ago, a bamboo weevil. I didn't read the instructions right. I thought it was saying it was 5 millimeters long, which is just perfect size for me. It was 5 centimeters long, which is like 2.5 inches. That's a weevil that big. I didn't even want to be in the same room with it. It just looked evil. And yeah, you could have used I could have used the same thing I washed my car with. That's not true because I don't wash my car. It rains here every couple of years. That does it. So yeah, no washcloths. If you can't get decon, what would be a good alternative? What a good question. There are no other decontamination fluids per se that I'm aware of. That just means I'm not aware of them. Decon 90 is used in the electron microscopy community, but I think it's used as a decontamination agent. So I'm not sure that there is anything that has that strange mixture of surfactant, detergent, wetting agent, but it wouldn't be hard to come up with something, maybe using some EDTA and deionized water with a few drops of a very minimal residue type detergent. I've started using one called I forget what it's called. My friend Steve sent me a bottle of the best stuff from Canada, and I used it all. That I do go through a lot of that. And then I bought this ECO, ECO. It's an American brand. It looks a lot like the other. It doesn't have any perfume or color in it, and it doesn't get real foamy, but it's a nice detergent, and it works great on insects. So maybe start with that as a base and add some surfactant, a water softener, any one ought to do, or maybe a couple of different ones. They all have different modes of action. Some of them wrap the dirt particles in hydrophobic polar molecules that lift them off the surface of the bug. So yeah, I don't know. Let me do some research on that. Let me see. Maybe I could come up with a mix that put a little bit of Celasolve in it. That you'd be all set. So let me see what other questions we've got. It was Larry's birthday yesterday. Larry the Tangent had a birthday. He's getting old then, isn't he? How about that? Congratulations, Larry. I'll have a birthday cake for you when we get together on Saturday. So the one on the right isn't a real bug, is it? Yes. The one on the in that picture or the other one? Probably in that one. Yeah, that is a from Vietnam. It's a Delta wasp from the Mekong Delta. That's the funny way they look. It looks. Some parts of it look like a Polistes, but it has a very long, sharp set of mandibles. They're like iris scissors, and this very thin waist, very strange-looking abdomens, and they're quite beautiful. I spent the weekend photographing this guy, and this is my pet wasp head and shoulders is what I call him. That's all that's left of him. Poor soul. His abdomen's in this box right here with his wings attached. But yeah, that's the bit that stayed on the pin. And he is attached with Bondic, by the way. It's a piece of wire, just regular resistance wire, with the end turned over, a blob of Bondic on it set. And then I stuck that blob in his chest and put another blob on top and set that. So he's not coming off, I don't think, ever. It's good for demonstration purposes. He's a pretty wasp, actually. I'll grab him and introduce you. Hang on. By the way, I'll have to change back to this camera. The two things that you see on the stage there that are not just for doing videos. This glass piece that comes out of a cheap microscope is a wonderful surface to work on because it's sticky for blue tack. And I often will do this hands-free so that I'm not holding the bug. I can have two hands for brushes. So this is definitely a real wasp, this
delta wasp. Beautiful, beautiful specimen. And the other guy, head and shoulders there, is a different kind of wasp. Not really sure what kind of wasp he is, but yeah, he's on the Bondic stick. So we'll see him again. His eyes don't look too bad, actually. Yeah, they looked a lot worse. But the other thing that I had on this plate that you maybe could or couldn't see was this. This is a really, really handy tool to put when you're working on fine detail on an insect. I'll try to simulate what it does. You can't be all the time picking up the insect and turning it around and moving it to see different parts. Because that's how it gets knocked off the pin and gets filthy again, and you have to start over. You want to not touch it except with a brush. When you use one of these, which is actually a mirror from an old microscope that I found at a thrift shop, and I put it on a little metal thing I had and just glued it on there. But I put this behind my bug. So if you're me and you're looking at, say, that wasp, I put this behind it like so on my work surface and get it pretty close, almost touching, and I can work now completely around the wasp without having to touch it and maneuver it. Does that make sense? It's yeah, it's a bit of overkill, but it helps me. It means I'm in less risk of knocking an insect off a pin. There's nothing worse than to spend hours, literally hours, cleaning one of these, to then make a stupid mistake of moving my hand and just knocking it onto the floor, and it's as dirty as it was the day you got it. So yeah, that's one of the ways I avoid that. And it lets you get to both eyes at the same time and make sure that you're not missing anything. But I will grant you that probably most people are not going to be quite that detailed about it. Yeah, I couldn't think of a word that might not be misinterpreted by the robots. So let me see, what other questions are coming in? I see some, yeah, I do actually see some big writings here. Zeno says Decon 90 is an emulsion of anionic and non-anionic surface acting agents, stabilizing agents, non-phosphate detergent builders, alkalis, and sequestering agents in an aqueous base. That actually, almost to the letter, was exactly what I said in English, except I didn't mention sequestration. It does sequester some heavy metals. Yeah, that's a separate thing. That's a chemical reaction that takes place. It's probably one of the things that make it not a good thing to... You wouldn't want to take a bath in it yourself, I don't think. But yeah, thank you, Zeno. That's actually really helpful to hear the table of contents. But that's what I understand it to be. And it's got a lot more than one surface acting agent. I mean, they act in multiple different ways to be really effective for lifting dirt off. Do you throw away all the liquids after cleaning? No, I do not. I throw away liquids that have either served their purpose, in other words, they picked up too much dirt, but usually for the dangerous stuff, I filter it back into use. I have bottles. I keep one bottle of pure reagent. Then I'll have the diluted reagent. Then I'll have the diluted and used. Then I'll have the diluted and very used. And at the very end will be the stuff that is getting thrown away. And I put that in a plastic jug, which takes a lot more than a year to fill up. With anything that's been around biologic material, I just pour it all in there, and then take it to there was a dump where I used to live that will handle fluids like that. I guess by pouring it on the ground, but They were qualified to do that. So yeah, I don't throw them away until they've served their purpose. Decon 90 will work over and over and over again. A lot of the moieties in it will get used up. I mean, certainly the sequestering agents will, and maybe some of the detergent will, but it still has a lot of activity and potency. You're only using a small amount too. According to Alkanox, their product Liquinox is a suitable substitute for Decon 90 or Contrad 70. However, the operating pH is different. Liquinox is around 8.5 and Decon 90 is around 11. That, as those of you who have been in a lab know, that the pH rises as the liquid becomes more alkaline. And as liquids become more alkaline, they become as destructive to tissues as acids do in the other direction. So if you wouldn't want your hands soaked in a vat of pH 2 hydrochloric acid, you probably shouldn't be dipping your hands in Decon 90 either, because it's just about as destructive a material. It's very bad for your eyes. And as I've mentioned, don't drink it. It will just flat kill you. So and it also, when you buy it, it's concentrated, way too concentrated to use on bugs. You'll strip the hide off them. Probably somebody's going to say, "Why did you not mention ultrasound?" It seems to me that your ultrasonic cleaner would be just the ticket for a lot of this. Not really. I use the ultrasonic cleaner sparingly for big, dirty insects. Rarely ever do I use it on small insects, and that's mostly what I photograph. I got away from using it as a matter of course after I destroyed a few really nice insects. There was another thing I was going to show you. You may or may not have... You know what a Q-tip is, right? Well, Target, my wife used to call it Target. It sounded a bit posher. Target is a shop in America that sells the same stuff Walmart does for twice as much money. But they have a collection of a box that comes with Q-tips of 3 different types. And I must say, I bought it on a whim because it was $3 or $4, which is a lot to just be spending willy-nilly. I like the look of the different shapes, and they have each come in really handy. You get a white one with a pointy bit and a flat bit. Think about big bugs that need a lot of combing. They've got a black and pink one with a very soft and a cottony top on it, very absorbent, more absorbent than the others. And then this white one with like a razor sharp point on it and a blunt point on the other end. That might just be blunt because I put it in the box that way, but they all look that way. This one's really sharp. The ENT surgeons would probably want you to clean your ears with this one. That's why they put them in the box. But don't put this in your ear. Don't put any of them in your ear. Don't put anything in your ear. But this is handy, this very sharp pointed one. So that's worth bearing in mind. And if you don't end up using them because they leave little hairs behind, and they do sometimes do that, use that to clean your lenses if you're into that kind of thing. I love using a Q-tip to clean my lenses, and these flat ones do it in half the time. But once a cleaning implement like a brush gets your finger oil on it, do not put it back in circulation. One of these brushes right here that you're using specifically to get that kind of stuff off, don't contaminate it and then put your oil onto the creature's eyes. That will not do the trick. All right. I get a little passionate about this stuff because this is what I like doing, and yeah, just keep me moving along. Keep prodding me. Question? No, it's not a question. It's more information about liquids It's all good. Okay, let's see. Other questions. Where is my list? I made a list so I wouldn't forget. All right, so somebody asked a very basic question, and it's largely going to get answered on Saturday, but somebody asked me, what basic equipment do I need to start with macro photography? This was a photographer that asked me, a very famous photographer who I just happened to be having a natter with today, and was wondering exactly what equipment you would need. And this is a question I get asked all the time, and I've dealt with it in several different forums. The way I started is probably the worst possible way. I read an article about using a reversed prime lens and went and got an adapter and started trying to figure out why my pictures were so bad, and it just took forever to figure it all out and get to the bottom of it. I tell people, if you're really interested in this stuff, go buy a macro lens. It doesn't have to be a super expensive one. Just buy a macro lens and put it on whatever camera you've got, and that's your equipment. You can do extreme macro from there. You can add a little extension and put a diopter on the front. Work your way into it slowly. You have to enjoy it. If you ever don't enjoy it, pause. Just do something else for a while. Take up golf or croquet or Go. I read an article about... I listened to a podcast about Go. I shouldn't go down that road or I'll never get back on the subject. It's a new podcast. I've forgotten the name of it, but my brother told me to listen to it, and it's fantastic. It's about AI. I'll try to remember the name of it and put it in the show notes over on the website. Okay, so basically, just whatever you've got, use that. Don't make your life difficult by trying to use objectives and other stuff like that. There'll be plenty of time for that down the road. How do I manage lighting in macro photography so I don't get harsh shadows or overexposure? That is, the answer to that is going to depend on where you're doing your macro. If you're talking about extreme macro, then hopefully you're doing that in the house, in the kitchen, or somewhere stable and quiet. If that's the case, you're going to have to provide the light most often. And if that is the case, you have to decide whether you want to use continuous light with LEDs, most likely, or flash. And these are both massive subjects that we could talk about for a long time. But most of the time, where you're going to face issues with overexposure and harsh shadows is when you're shooting outdoors on a bright day. And then using some kind of a diffuser. I have an umbrella diffuser that I use. I've got two umbrellas, a big one and a little one, but they both will fit in a hole in my hat. And it does look ridiculous, and I've never shown anybody, and it will never appear in a video, but it will keep a lot of the really glary sunlight off, and that's where the bad shadows come from. The way you get bad shadows in the studio is to use one flash from one position and crank it up to full and don't diffuse it. That will give you harsh shadows. It'll give you overexposure and highlights that are blown out. The goal always needs to be get the light as soft and as spread out as you possibly can by using layer after layer of diffusion with just tissue paper. Buy a box of Kleenex, that'll last you a year, and unless you cry a lot as well. And then shoot through that. Have your flash fire through that. I'm a big believer in using many small, low-powered flashes as opposed to a couple of big, powerful ones. That might be great for portrait work. It might be great for all kinds of things, but it's not great for macro. Not in my hands anyway. By the time you get two big speed lights modified and softened and calmed down enough to give you nice light on a macro subject, you've used up all that tissue paper, a whole year's supply on one shoot. What is the best way to get sharp focus? That kind of depends on what magnification you're working at. If you are working at, let me tell you what the big problem is. Everybody knows, if you do any photography and if you've used the camera before that has buttons and dials on it, you know that if you click the aperture closed, if you make the F number larger, things kind of get a bit sharper, and you can get more of the subject in focus. And that's often a mistake that people will make early on, is pouring more light onto it and then shutting down the aperture to get a sharper image. Of course, as soon as you close the aperture on a macro lens, you're going to wander into diffraction territory, and you're going to so alter the light that's traveling back to your sensor that it'll soften the image. So the way we sharpen our images in macro photography is by taking lots of pictures and putting them together into one focused picture, focus stacking, in other words. There's really no two ways about it. You can be a close-up photographer for the rest of your life and never do a focus stacked image, and more power to you. I know a lot of people who are very comfortable doing that, but if you want to look at the small stuff, you're going to have to learn the intricacies of focusing wide open and taking many photographs. Again, a whole big topic. Beginner questions are the hardest to answer because they're the most interesting and they have the longest answers. Can you recommend a good beginner-friendly subject for macro photography? I started with caterpillars, or a caterpillar, and photographed its feet and its eyes and other things. I liked it because it didn't move very fast. Caterpillars are good for that. So if you're shooting live subjects, avoid things that fly, avoid things that sting or bite or are deadly, and so avoid going to Australia to do that. And it's easy if the thing's dead. Just look for something that is fairly smooth, like a weevil, doesn't have bunches of matted hair, and not too many long gangly extremities. They're a whole world of trouble to mess with. So go for something plump and round and with nice clear edges on it. The stacking software will like that. So really, anything that you have to chase, forget about it. You'll probably never want to photograph that, but at least forget about it for now. A question about the right macro lens for your camera. Gosh, I wish I could remember who asked that. That, again, is I wrote a whole article and had a table of the best macro lenses for each camera brand. And every brand of camera, just about, and a lot of lens makers have a flagship macro lens. It used to be for Leica, the 100mm f2.8 was probably their best macro lens in the most popular focal length. I believe that is going to be taken over by the APO 90mm lens. I am hearing some incredible things about that lens. That's one that I'd like to get my hands on. But if you're going with your camera brand, usually it's best to just go with the best lens they have for your sensor size. Nikon I'm more familiar with than anybody else. If you have a Nikon DSLR, I think the D85, what is it that? It's the 85mm f3.5 is what I'm trying to say, is a designed for the D size sensor, the small sensor, APS-C. It's a sharp, sharp lens. That's what I'm shooting with back there. That's what Well, once I started that by accident, I kind of liked it. I haven't seen that in a long time. I pressed the wrong button because I was looking over the top of my glasses. But that's a good stinger, that. I should play that every week. I just keep forgetting to do it. Too much else to keep up with. So your best bet then, if Nikon is your thing, the less expensive APS-C macro lens is very, very good. The full frame macro lens is even better, and the new mirrorless full frame macro lens, the MC105, is absolutely fantastic. It is so sharp. I love that lens. It's really, ask a macro photographer who's been doing it for a handful of years. Well, I guess you did when you asked me. But ask somebody that shoots the same platform you do. And remember, in macro, we hardly ever use camera lenses. I mean, we're always using lenses that weren't made for cameras anyway. So, there's that to bear in mind. But, if you want to know what the best Canon lens is, I can tell you what has the best looking MTF curves. And I probably haven't shot with the lens any time in the last 10 years. But ask somebody who uses it and has one. They'll tell you and keep telling you. How can I effectively use extension tubes or bellows to get greater magnifications? What do you think, guys? How do you use those two things? Well, they're really one thing. How do you use extension to get more magnification? Well, it was a trick question because the answer is, with the exception of some lenses that are particularly well suited to that kind of photography, you probably don't. You don't want to put a macro lens on bellows. You don't want to put a macro lens on extension of any kind. It is a necessity when you're using microscope objectives because you have to provide the distance between the, oh my goodness, I cannot believe the time. You have to provide the distance between the sensor and the lens. Listen, we're out of time, so I am going to hold on that thought till next time. I did go on rather about the cleaning, didn't I? I do apologize if you're not an insect person. Joseph has probably packed his bags and left hours ago. I'm sorry about the demo. That is a jinx demo. Every time I try to do that, something horrible happens. I'll figure out what's going on with the microphone and why it didn't work. And I do apologize. Join me on Thursday or Saturday, because I'll be here. And don't forget, not next week when I'll be here for both live streams, but the following week I won't be for either. Got it? And then the week after that I'll be back Thursday. So we go from 2 live streams this week, 2 live streams next week, none, and then that next week after that 1. I'll put it in the weekly announcement thing over on the website. You found that okay? By the way, the website with the show notes and everything over there, that's where you'll go. If I add anything to the show notes after this, any links or anything, they'll be over there. That's where you'll find them. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Sorry about the rocky start this evening, and I will see you guys in a day or two. And any last questions? Amy has a cine lens. Oh my goodness, you are going to have a blast with that lens. I was out shooting with it. Anybody who's listening tonight who also belongs to the same camera club that I do, that meets tomorrow night, you are going to hear a story about my adventure in the woods this weekend. But I can't tell you guys because it's a secret till tomorrow. But yeah, the Cine lens was involved in it. You're going to love that. I cannot wait to see your footage. When do you use acetone when cleaning an insect? I use acetone when nothing else is working and it looks like it's an organic type material. It's a powerful solvent, but it strips the surface layer off the elytra on beetles, so I don't use it much. I've got some, but I use it to clean the glass in the frames that I put on my pictures, but that's it. All right, guys. Bud, it's good to have you back again, my friend. I'm glad you're back in the saddle, and appreciate your help tonight. Alistair, thank you. Amy, thank you. We had the trifecta this evening. And I will see you guys on Thursday. Stay safe and be well. Until then, good night.